Okay, so you've got all of that Bible drawn up. You kind of your kind of game design document, and then the level design will work. Write different level design documents and design missions that will fit with the overall game design. They'd also be required to draw detailed level maps and blueprints and plans. I do a level design module for my students where I get them to kind of draw a top-down plan of the level and create a walkthrough document to go with it, and then individual bits of concept art and plans of specific buildings and areas. They draw detailed sections of levels for artist reference, so that artists are going to kind of know the positioning of everything and how far things are from each other. The level designer needs to create something that's going to work really well with the level design. So they're kind of between the designers and the artists. They're kind of taking the game designer's ideas, sort of mapping it out into a level that then the artist can take away and model up in texture. They design and place enemies and non-player characters and set their rules, so different kind of triggers, like you'll have an enemy, sort of they work out. An enemy might just be standing there. What's he doing when the player's coming up? Is it a sentry? Is he actually on active duty? Is he kind of looking round for the player? What will trigger his action is if the player makes a noise within such a distance, that triggers his action. And then what is his action? Will he start to patrol? Will he be actively looking for the player? If he actually sees the player, will he fire off a certain number of shots? So there's all these rules to figure out. And then if the player disappears, how long will it be before he goes back to, just standing around again? They need to design puzzles, which are usually involving unlocking new areas. If you think the majority of puzzles in games seem to involve actually unlocking a door or unlocking another area. And they might also be required to place the buildings and objects built by the 3D modelers in a level editor. Okay, so when you've got all of the design stuff done, you actually need to get the money to make your game. So with that, you've got your game design document, you need to pitch it to a publisher to actually get the money to make it. So the game designer writes a preliminary design, collaborates with the level designer on a sample level or mission that they're going to put together to create a demo. Concept artists will take level designs and draw characters, enemies, level details and vehicles that are going to appear in the game, just to make it look quite sexy to the publishers and to make it look like something they want to actually invest money into. The artists will mock up the level design. It might not be the first level within the game, it might be just a kind of the most exciting, what they think is going to be the most exciting level that they'll actually model up for the pitch. The programmers will start work on the engine and prototypes, and the animators will actually fake gameplay by animating the art assets. Obviously at that stage, right at the beginning, you're not going to have everything working. So the artists will build stuff and texture it, and then the animators will just fake it to make it look as though the game is actually working. So they might just animate characters fighting or kind of walking around and exploring the environment rather than it actually working in the engine. And the design leads will put together a final pitch from the work created. So your final demo can be a bit of a playable level of a game, or it could just be kind of a load of little animated bits that shows how the game is going to play. So that pitch has got to be put together, and then that's presented to the publisher. Now that's if it's the company coming up with their own game design to pitch to the publisher. It might be that the publisher approaches your studio with with a game design in mind that they want you to work on. In which case, they might have several studios pitching to work on that game. Reservoir Dogs, has anyone played that? It's made by, you guys have played everything. It was made by Blitz Games. And I was chatting to the guys at Blitz about that pitch, and I think there was about 3 or 4 different companies all pitching to actually make Reservoir Dogs. But the guys from Blitz, it's quite cheesy really, but they all went along in their black suits and white shirts and little black ties and little kind of water pistols and stuff to the interview, all kind of dressed as kind of characters from Reservoir Dogs. They even had a little kind of fake ear in a matchbox as well, with their demo disc attached to it. So they kind of really went out of the way to show, really want to work on this game, but they also kind of put together the models and kind of bits of concept artwork to show what the game would look like if they made it. So I think the fact that they were so keen on it and they showed that they were kind of huge fans of the game actually got them the gig. Although the publishers were actually, they did admit they were kind of slightly scared at how enthusiastic they were. A little bit too scary, I think. So once the publisher has said, yep, go ahead, we want you to make this game, either our game or your game, they say, yeah, we'll give you so much money, there's so many millions to make this, we're going to assign you a producer. So they will assign you an external producer who will come in every so often just to kind of make sure you're all working to schedule and that money they've given you isn't being thrown away. They'll also set you a number of milestones as well, which are kind of deadlines. So you need to have, the first level done by this date, the second level by this date. It all needs to be playable by this date. So they'll give you a series of dates, and you've got to deliver. The studio's got to deliver everything required by that date, or your payment gets withheld, because you just get paid. You just get that money as you do complete each of the milestones. So as you complete each of the milestones, you then get the money for it. So you'll find as it gets closer to a milestone, the company will go into kind of crunch time being kind of working late hours to try and get it finished on time. In order to get that money. So the producer will kind of be ensuring that things are working on schedule to meet these deadlines. And your internal producer will be doing the same. They'll be making sure that things are on track. Because if you miss a deadline, the money's held back. I've known really, really small studios have had to actually withhold staff's wages until they actually get the payments. So it's kind of an incentive to get everything done in time. So the game designer will start working intensively on the final document. The level designer creates the level designs and the puzzles. The concept art is all produced and circulated to the team. And that's when the programmers actually start work on the engine, the AI, the in-house tools, and work out rules for the artists to stick to, because they need that as soon as possible in order to start creating all of the assets. I did find I was working on a game at one point that completely changed halfway through, because we were working on, it was a racing game for the first PlayStation, and then just as we were about maybe 5 months into it, and then PlayStation 2 was announced, and so all of the kind of rules we'd been working to, all of the kind of art rules changed, because we had to just then drop the PlayStation game, because we thought by the time this is released, everyone's just going to be playing PlayStation 2. And the artwork, the graphics, the difference between PlayStation and PlayStation 2 was pretty immense, so we had to scrap 6 months worth of work in order to start working for kind of PlayStation 2 level. So the programmers then told us all of these new rules. We kind of recreated everything with the new rules. I don't think it's probably exaggerated to say we scrapped everything. We just kind of added more polys and created completely new textures for it. So the artists will create all the models and textures and build levels or save them in a bank to be placed in the editor by a level designer. So you might actually have an editor in the studio, but just a little program you can sit with, and you have your environment in front of you, and just place all of the buildings that have been built by all of the artists. You can access them all from the central library, and just then place them all. It's kind of like flower arranging with buildings. The audio gurus will start developing the sound effects and music, and the testers right the way through will be playing each stage, looking for bugs and problems and acting on them straight away. Production times. Next-gen console games will usually take between 1 and 2.5 years to develop. Although I do know of some games that have been, like 4 years or more in production because of new consoles coming out halfway through. Sorry.
The new GTA, it's been taking a while, isn't it?
How long has that been? Is it
Ages.
actually been announced? Is it June or something now?
April. Yeah.
Oh, April. But I thought it was going to be Christmas.
Like last year, yeah.
Yeah. I had actually meant to pre-order it somewhere for Christmas, and I'm thinking, maybe it's not going to be released. Yeah, so yeah, you will get it's often if new consoles are announced, that was the reason.
That's why, yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Because you've got to just redo all of this stuff then. So yeah, that's quite a common thing that happens, and that's usually the cause of games going kind of well over the kind of planned sort of development date.